Hello again, friends. Welcome back. My name is Oscar Montes Iga. I'm a certified wine and spirits instructor for the International Wine and Spirits Guild. And thanks for joining me here at the Bush Library. I'm at Uncork Vintage Academia, bringing you, at least for now, the last episode on the series of brandy around the world outside of Cognac or Armagnac, or even outside of France. But, this may grow into another installment if I feel like you have brandy questions or want to see what else is out there aside the four that I'm been touching on the last few episodes. And to do a really quick recap, we started in Palestine, in Bethlehem, with a 35-year-old brandy. Then we moved to Armenia for the Ararat 10-year-old brandy. We then went to South Africa for a 12-year-old brandy made in a pot still. And today we're in Peru. So in Peru and South America, obviously they started making brandy very, very soon after the Spanish conquistadors arrived to South America, just because it made more sense for them to try to grow grapes there, and or sometimes using local fruits to make their own alcohol instead of bringing them all the way from Spain. It just did not make sense economically to transport wine. Obviously they did, and part of the age of exploration implies that we started to produce a lot more fortified wine that started to make its journey for longer periods of time, and so the wine was preserved by adding alcohol or spirits. And we have, in a way, a revolution of a lot of table wines around the world when we started seeing a lot more fortified wines as the world got smaller, as they say. But so in Peru, there is definitely a distilling tradition. Most specifically, it goes into pisco making, and pisco is really like a white or unaged brandy. And it is a beautiful brandy. I love pisco, especially from Peru, more than Chile, and there's nothing against Chilean pisco, but from what I've had so far, Peruvian pisco really hits the spot. It's typically a lot more aromatic. It's also more accessible, or not in price points necessarily, but there's usually a lot more Peruvian brands than Chilean brands in the market. So it is found more easily, and just the style of pisco that they make is a little better suited for what I like, which does remind me of Blanche Armagnac, for example, and even things like Singani or Georgian Chacha that are just very pretty aromatically speaking, and I can't have enough of them. They're so delicious. So I recommend you trying them if you can get your hands on them. So Peru is really known for pisco. It is the world-class benchmark recognizable Peruvian export in the world of spirits. But they, of course, also make brandy. And I guess the difference between pisco and brandy, what you can summarize really quick, is that pisco in Peru is typically unaged. In Chile, they do age their pisco. So that is basically an allowed category in Chile that is disallowed in Peru. So if you're making an aged pisco in Peru, then it basically becomes a brandy. And I'm just simplifying things because there's other requirements for you to actually make a pisco in Peru, with obviously like a certain distillation grade. There is definitely certain grape varieties that go into pisco making, and then there's also, of course, the fact that you cannot dilute it with water, so it must be coming out the still at the bottling proof that you want it to. So that doesn't mean you can necessarily make a brandy out of that. I'm sure you can, but I'm just, again, generalizing. So this brandy is made with 100% grapes that are called Quebranta. So the Quebranta grapes are going into this bottling. The producer is called Bodegas Viña de Oro, or Viñas de Oro. And this is a limited edition reserve from Chincha in the Ica Valley. So these are producers in the Ica Valley in Peru. This is aged for 5 years, and it comes in at 40% ABV. And let's give it a whirl, guys. Ooh, we're tasting neat, of course, and it is a light gold color with straw canary transition and pale color to edge. There's really almost no clear watery edge on this. The nasal impact is mostly drying. There's a lot of baking spices, a lot of wood and cedar influence. There's light caramel, butterscotch, lots of vanilla and burnt sugar, so it's really like a creme brulee. There's chamomile, lemon oil. So something slightly savory and animal, almost like in between leather and mushrooms. Nothing new out of that, so I think I'm getting an adequate intensity of production with simple character, and really more of an adequate and complex élevage character. Its length is average, and the character itself is beyond ordinary. I would call this fine. It's not really changing or evolving, but I want to smell it. I want to keep smelling it. Alright, let's give it a go. The palate is mostly coating, but there is astringency as well. So it's astringent and coating with a little bit of warming. The alcohol glycerol is smooth, body is medium, and the alcohol is sufficient. The primary taste is sweet with a little highlights of sourness and little highlights of bitterness, with also a little bit of salt. The smoothness is round, it's creamy, it's buttery. The palate really is the same as the nose. It gets the vanilla and burnt sugar, the creme brulee, the baking spices, the orange and lemon oil, the cedar oak influence, the chamomile, and the salted caramel. The flavor intensity is medium towards concentrated. It's really kind of letting you know it's there. It is slightly complex to complex, and it is harmonious. Everything is actually working well together, even though on the structure of the mouthfeel there was astringency on warming and coating. Like it's a little bit of, I'm not gonna say necessarily rough edges, but there's definitely tension. But everything comes to the palate balanced harmoniously, because it weights enough. It's not really underwhelming or overwhelming as far as the weight goes. It's also not alcohol that's burning down your throat. Uh, Really, it has a nice integration of structural components. I think, if anything, I have to go in between. I can't define this as an excellent brandy. I'm going more between very good to excellent. And because even though it is structurally sound and balanced and harmonious, to put it that way, What I'm somewhat missing from this brandy is a little bit more of the fruit qualities of Quebranta grapes. I think this producer or this particular labeling, this particular style of brandy, I think they're showing or showcasing, or at least it came through this way, that is showing a lot of wood contact, a lot of like new wood character. There's a lot of like new cedar, new oak, new just wood in general that I wish it was a little bit more toned down to really show a little bit more of the fruit qualities, because I don't really have any fruit notes other than lemon and orange oils. Everything else seems to be about the wood, including the vanilla, the honey, the burnt sugar, the chamomile in a way, the baking spices. I mean, baking spices are big. So again, that is my only me hitting the wall, that I'm not gonna call this excellent per se, because even though it is nicely balanced, I am missing part of the influence of the raw material, the fruit of the grape, that I wish it was a little bit more prominent. But there's nothing wrong with it in another sense, meaning it's very sippable, very enjoyable, and I think if anything, that wood aspect, the wood showcase of spices and wood, could make it a very food friendly pairing brandy with certain styles of food, including not just the obvious of cheese and charcuterie boards, but maybe a little heavier, like quail and duck, or rabbit. Or what do they have popular dish down there, like guinea pig? Guinea pig could be a good guinea pig pairing for this brandy. So I'll be here all night. Just kidding. This episode's about to be over. I do thank you for watching again. Please hit subscribe to the channel so you get notification when the next episode gets released. And please like the videos and share with your friends, those that are wanting to learn more about wine or spirits or cocktails. Make sure you check out those videos as well, cocktailing. Check out the last 3 episodes on these worldwide brandies outside of cognac. And shoot me any questions. I'm happy to hear suggestions or what you'd like to taste next or explore. I'm really happy to make the time to produce that video for you if you have the time to engage. So without further ado, I do thank you again for watching this segments of brandies around the world. Hope you learned something new more than anything, and encourage you to find brandies that you're not familiar with. Also, a shout out, if you're already a brandy geek or a brandy nerd or a brandy connoisseur, if you're not on Facebook, then tough luck. But if you're on Facebook, there's a great group out there, and cheers and shout out to Steve Yuri. Steve holds the keys to the Serious Brandy group, and of course I'm going to be posting these videos there, so shout out to all the viewers from the group, and Steve for leading such a healthy group, unlike many other groups around the world of spirits that could be out there. But again, thanks for your time, and I hope you enjoyed everything. I enjoyed making this video for you. Cheers and salud.